Scrum Master resolution of common impediments. That's what we're going to be taking a look at today. I coach and train and mentor Scrum Masters, and every now and again they ask me questions. How do I deal with this problem or that problem? So today we're going to address some of the common impediments because this has been a recurring theme. If you are not aware of the Agile Alliance, I want you to visit their website. Look for resources, not just for impediments, but to learn and to grow. It's a very good resource. Now, the Agile Alliance partnered with the PMI. I know I see eyes rolling, PMI, yeah. But the PMI has been quite progressive in embracing Agile. So the Agile Alliance, you'll find their logo here. They partnered with PMI to write an Agile practice guide. This Agile practice guide has got some very good ideas on pages 58 and 59 for some of the common Scrum problems or Agile problems that you face. If you take a look at page 58, it talks about pain points and it lists everything from unclear purpose or mission, unclear working agreements, unclear team context, unclear requirements, poor user experience, inaccurate estimation, team struggles with obstacles, defects, work is not complete, too much complexity, slow or no improvement, false starts, impossible stakeholder demands. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, this is real life. Siloed teams instead of cross-functional teams, the list goes on. It's a very good resource. I want to recommend it first and foremost to a lot of you Agile and Scrum individuals who work in that domain. Look at pages 58, 59, get ideas. Be open-minded. Okay, it doesn't have to be from the Scrum Alliance before it's good. Ken Schwaber's company, scrum.org, is another great resource for you to look into. So today, I'm going to show you a matrix that addresses additional points of concern. And before I begin showing you the matrix, I want to first of all address the concept of team autonomy in Agile. What does the Agile Manifesto state? It says, give the team the environment, that's one, two, support that they need, and trust them to get the job done. So what is environment when you think about it? A lot of times we talk about a shared team space. But how do you define environment when your team is geographically dispersed? So part of giving the team the environment is when the team comes together in a virtual environment. Is it a conducive environment? Is it a friendly environment? Is it an environment where people have the courage to do the right thing, to say the right thing, to address what needs to be addressed? If that is not in place, then you don't have the right environment for a virtual team. So as a Scrum Master working with a virtual team, you need to observe what is said and what is not said so that you get the full message. Because a lot of times when people are quiet, they might be just quiet by nature, but they could also be keeping quiet because they're not happy and they don't want to say anything. So you got to observe body language, nonverbal cues, and go with your gut and intuition. All of these things help the Scrum Master. Okay? So the average question you get is, this is happening. What should I do? I get this a lot from Scrum Masters. What should I do? And a lot of times the answer is not with the Scrum Master. It is not up to the Scrum Master to do anything other than facilitate a discussion. Bring what is buried to the surface. Some Scrum Masters tell me, Phil, this team member came to me and confided about this and that. What should I do? Well, it's your job to elevate the awareness of that thing and to have a discussion. I want to encourage you, my Scrum Masters, don't be a scaredy cat. Stop being afraid. Stop thinking, what if I say this and that happens? No. Just do your job the best way you can. And your job is to create an awareness of what is important. The big ticket conversations need to be had, because if they are not had, things are going to continue the way they are. And you'll have 1Z, 2Z, 3Z people coming to you and telling you, we're not happy about this and that. So you need to ask the open question, consensus, show of hands. Let's find the real opinions. And there are many ways you can do it. You've got the fist of five. I mean, it's very simple, especially when you're on camera. Fist of five, dot voting, simple yes or no. And the one I love, the Highsmith decision spectrum, which is great. It just gives people that leeway to show what they feel and put that in context of everyone else. So you need to be using these approaches to pragmatize a lot of what you already know. The power of consensus. Now, contrary to what people think, consensus is not the same as unanimity. Unanimity means everyone must agree. Now, a way to consensus could be unanimity. If the team agrees, everybody must say yes, then that's unanimity being used for consensus. But if the team agrees, as long as 60% of us are in one direction, that's fine. Or as long as 75% of us, or whatever the case, the team again needs to also decide, what does consensus mean for them? Is it when everyone agrees? Is it when 2 people, 3 people out of the 10? You know what I mean? Is it when it must be more than 5? A lot of teams say majority, more than 5 on a team of 10, because the limit in the world of Scrum is 10. So if more than 5 agree, then you know, okay, we reached consensus. But if you got less than 10, the team needs to decide, which is why you are a facilitator. That's your job, to facilitate, to bring people together, to catalyze those discussions. And you got to get good at it, because that's your job. That's your responsibility. If you're scared of having the crucial conversations, they will never be had. And the crucial conversations are needed. They're needed a lot on teams. So I want to encourage you, don't be scared of facilitating, of stepping up to the plate, of bringing people together to speak, to ignite that conversation. That's your job. That's your role. Now, I have a book here from one of my Agile heroes, the great Mike Cohn. He wrote this book, Succeeding with Agile. You definitely want to succeed as a Scrum Master, right? Nobody wants to fail in Agile, right? Or in the particular framework, Scrum especially. So, in this book, I like what Mike has here in chapter 11. I'm going to read a little bit of chapter 11 on page 201. He says, one of the first steps to becoming a functional Scrum team is to come to terms with the whole team responsibility. Don't you love that? Whole team. I know we talk about collective code ownership. Well, this is collective responsibility, whole team responsibility. When I teach, my favorite questions are the ones starting with, who is responsible for? It doesn't matter how someone ends that question. My answer is always the same. The answer is team, the team, the team. That's always the answer. Mike says, not wanting to fully evade such questions, I will expand further. Suppose the question was, who is responsible for the product backlog? I will answer that although the team is responsible, it is the product owner I'll go talk to about making it happen. You see, so that mindset needs to permeate. He also goes further to say, although having clean written code may seem to be something only the programmers can do anything about, that isn't the case. Suppose a tester notices that a handful of bugs appear, are fixed, and then reappear in one part of the application. This may be evidence to the tester that this particular code has become difficult to maintain. And he has a lot of great examples here. But what I'm trying to make you see, my friends, is the team as one whole organism needs to make the judgment call. Some Scrum Masters may feel they're not doing enough because they feel they should have all the answers. No, a million times no. You don't have the answers. You may understand how to remove certain impediments, but in the heart of what you do needs to be the facilitator, the servant leader, the bringing people to the table for the team to decide. The team is an organism. The team is a unit that can think for itself and that can decide what to do. But it's your responsibility. This is your skill set. This is your wheelhouse to be able to bring people to a conversation and facilitate the conversation, and to know the right tools to bring to the table, to know when to use dot voting, when to say, okay, let's have an ad hoc fist of five. Knowing when to do those things and being confident, and your body language, your poise, your demeanor, it says a lot. You can't afford to go into your events dishwater dull, beaten up, looking like you just rolled out of the deep side of I'm having a bad day, or I'm scared of the team. How can you be scared of the team? Come on now. Don't be scared of the team. You've got to be confident in your experience. There's a reason why you were selected as the Scrum Master. Someone says, well, Phil, it's because they had no one else better. Are you kidding me? Stop being ridiculous. You have the skills, you have the ability, you have the propensity, which is why you are listening even all the way up to here. So with all of these impediments, I just want to set the foundation that with all the impediments I'm going to show you, the ones that are very specific to team impediments, you, the Scrum Master, you need to understand that your job is to facilitate the discussion, to bring things to the surface, and to have that conversation together, collectively, okay? So now that I've set the foundation, my goodness, I've almost gone for 10 minutes, and we're barely even getting in. This is going to be a long video. This is going to be a long video, but it's going to be worthwhile. So let's jump into my matrix really quick. For those of you that want a copy of this matrix, I'm going to make it available. All you need to do is just hit that button, fill in some information. No one's going to spam you. We'll send this to you, and you'll be able to use this as a good reminder of the time that we have spent together today. So let's move into the matrix. The first thing is poor time management. This is what a lot of teams struggle with. And the reason this happens is there's missed deadlines, then there's incomplete work, then people scramble all over the place. It's likely to happen throughout a sprint or a project, but it's very notorious for happening even more so towards the middle and end, because that's when people start waking up and smelling the coffee, right? So who should resolve this poor time management? It's the team. Like I said, remember Mike's answer to the question? It's a team. But the Scrum Master, of course, needs to elevate and facilitate. How to resolve: prioritize tasks, track progress, encourage time boxing. The art of knowing whether you can get things done in a sprint is going to come in handy. If your team is weak in this regard, perhaps it needs some pairing with someone who is good at time management, who is good at estimating. And if the team doesn't do estimating, well, perhaps having a conversation with someone who succeeds on the regular will be good. There are tools that are used for this. Trello is a little bit of a simplistic one, but it's not bad for a small team. Time Camp, and there are many more. Scope creep. We're talking about unnecessary work, delayed delivery. It could happen throughout a sprint, and who should resolve this? Yeah, the product owner. So you know what I tell teams that have a whole bunch of scope creep here in the middle of the sprint, and out comes from management some person who says, hey team, I'd really like for you to do this and blah, blah, blah. Well, if the team leaves everything fallow, just leaves what they're working on, abandons it, and goes in pursuit of this new thing that the person said they want, then that team doesn't understand the rules of the game. They don't understand Scrum and how it should work. Once you're airborne in that sprint, my friends, there's no opening that cabin door. It's going to stay shut. Now, I'm not saying there are no instances where the product owner makes a judgment call as far as, hey, time out. This is needed critically in the organization. It has to be done. Yes, I understand. And you can see that's why we have the product owner as the person who needs to resolve this, who needs to say, it's my backlog that I am accountable for. And when I say my backlog, I don't mean it in an overtly possessive way, but I mean the product owner has got to step up. You prioritize that thing. So why are you letting work slip through the cracks and into the backlog? And it's worse if the product owner is the offender. If the product owner is the offender, well, heaven help us. That's a crucial conversation that needs to happen between the Scrum Master and the product owner. The Scrum Master, remember, they hold people accountable. So don't shirk from your responsibility. If you've got a product owner, as I've seen a lot, and I will withhold names, but I've seen product owners that don't know their job. They're weak. The Scrum Master may need to help them see what their roles and responsibilities are, what their accountabilities are. All right, how to resolve, define project scope, write user stories, enforce scope management. Just enforce. Once the sprint is airborne, that's it. Don't come to me with stuff because it ain't going to be done. We talk about different methods for prioritizing the backlog, and one of the most annoying ones is the fire alarm method. He or she who screams and yells the loudest. And unfortunately, a lot of times these people get audience and they keep pushing their luck. Don't let that happen. You got to challenge when there's something that's out of whack with the way Scrum should be practiced. All right, you could use things like Jira, Asana. You could also use the definition of ready. If something has not met the definition of ready, please don't intake it. Stop intaking garbage. Make sure it's processed and refined. All right, let's move on to inefficient meetings, wasted time, missed deadlines. When is this likely to happen? During team meetings? Who should resolve? The Scrum Master, because that's poor use of the events. So set an agenda, enforce time boxing, use concepts like Elmo, enough, let's move on. Have an Elmo doll, it's fun. Hold it up, it's non-threatening. And encourage participation. You could use tools like Google, Calendar, Calendly, just to keep those meetings on track for people who may have issues remembering them. And you could use things like Siri and Alexa to remind you when the time is up, to remind you when to do stuff. It could be very helpful as far as these meetings are concerned. The next one is lack of feedback. This is very unfortunate because there's so many opportunities that pass us by in events. You don't want to miss those opportunities. So you want this to be kept watch on all throughout, because it could happen in different events. It could happen when you're having a casual conversation. And the team needs to be aware that people should give feedback. They need to feel comfortable with feedback and understand they're not going to be penalized for it. And the Scrum Master needs to look for those opportunities when there's a gold nugget about to pass. That's feedback. You're looking a gift horse in the mouth. Don't do it. Stop right there, glean that feedback, and thank the individual. So have an openness about it. Be quick to listen and slow to speak. Don't shut people down. So how do you resolve this? We can talk during retrospectives. We can glean some feedback then. Sometimes it's kind of late by then, so be proactive in it. Encourage feedback and provide constructive criticism. The tools, you could use the events. The sprint retrospective is a big one. And you could use the concept of a feedback form. Moving over to the second set of impediments a lot of Scrum Masters face is a lack of communication. If you're new, there's some teams in certain geographies, they're super quiet. Super quiet. They don't say much. And just because they're not saying much doesn't mean they're not thinking much. When you hear what they're thinking, you'll be amazed that it's those same people, dishwater dull, quiet, deadpan look, no response, but they are thinking stuff. And it's your job as a Scrum Master to elevate the awareness that, hey, it's okay to speak, it's okay to communicate. The reason for lack of communication could be historical. It could be that there's misunderstandings, missed deadlines, wasted time, and now no one's communicating. Everyone just wants to work. Then this work, hamster in a wheel mindset, such that anytime you even meet, they're hurrying you up. They're hurrying everyone else up because they've got a bad mindset about communicating, failing to realize that we are all different. We're diverse. We communicate in different ways. So it's important to elevate that. Okay? So like I said, it can happen at any time, but we can resolve this in our dailies. We can talk about this in our dailies. We can encourage open communication. We can have those regular events, meetings, the dailies, and on top of that, refinement, everything else. The tools, you could use Slack, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Just communicate. As much as possible, turn that camera on, because you give people an inch, they're going to take a mile. Ain't nobody turning on no camera. You don't want that to be the case. So perhaps in your team charter, earlier on, in the very beginning, you want the team to begin to warm up to the idea of at least coming on camera. You know what I mean? It helps. It helps a whole lot. Undefined goals, similar to what we were looking at in the Agile practice guide. So we're talking about unclear expectations, wasted effort. It could happen at the start of a sprint or project when things are pretty green. Who should resolve it? The product owner needs to know the vision and needs to understand the stories in their backlog. So there's a lot of accountability there in the product owner. How to resolve: define project goals, define sprint objectives, and write user stories. So one of my clients is in one of these departments in Virginia. You might have heard me tell the story before. But this client was looking to do a project and they were not able to articulate what they wanted. How did they do it? I told them, hey, have you ever thought of user stories? So these folks, this was way back when they got certified, like at least a decade ago. So they had not really practiced a lot of Agile. I said, let's use this. Put in the format of user story, boom. They couldn't believe how quick and efficient it was. Just the RGB, the role, goal, benefit, the car, the conversation, the confirmation, just that concept, it amplified their requirements to the point that they were able to move forward on a project they were not able to move previously. I could go on and on. The examples of when the likes of the FBI were trying to update the antiquated system. They did everything they could using a predictive method. Didn't work. Until the light bulb came on and someone said, hey, why don't we try Agile? And they used Agile, predominantly a Scrum concept, and taking all those requests and making them more pragmatized. That is what saved the day, because they'd already wasted 170 million US dollars of taxpayer money when you boil it down. But the way they overcame that was to go Agile. Stories and stuff. All right, so now you get the idea. Let's move on to the final one here, lack of commitment. And the reason is we have delayed deliverables, reduced team morale, and that could lead to a lack of commitment. So it's likely to happen at the start of a sprint or the start of a project. When you talk about the commitment, we talk about the product goal, we talk about the sprint goal, and then we talk about the definition of done. Those things indicate what you are committed to doing. And if you don't have those in place, it could lead to a lack of real commitment. So you want to make sure you got commitment by just voicing it. Are we in agreement? And I'm not saying every team must have a sprint goal, because that's become a hot topic in industry. So you may not have a sprint goal. I would advise you to. What does it take? Maybe you've got many sprint goals, not just one. Maybe 2, 3, 4. It's okay. It's okay. Hey, Ken and Jeff didn't lock down the number of sprint goals. So if having more sprint goals helps, do that. But you definitely want commitment across the board. You could use velocity and tracking as a team or Scrum Master to resolve this, to identify what can we do in each sprint. Don't just say, oh, we're going to go with what team X or Y has done. No, this is empirical. It should be empirical data. Now someone says, but Phil, we don't have empirical data. We don't do estimates. Find a way. Scrum Master, I don't care how you do it. It's doable. Even if you use the concept of epics, features, stories, you can do it. So think out of the box. You know what? Ask the team. Always defer to the team when you're stumped. And it takes a lot of courage to do that. But I want to encourage you too. Now we're going to our final matrix, my friends. And this is a big old matrix. It's huge. It's huge. So I'm going to make this available, but I'm going to go through it very quick. So again, we've talked about lack of communication, unrealistic deadlines, scope creep. I now want to talk about the concept of lack of technical skills and poor team dynamics. Now, your team may not be struggling with this, but I want to encourage you, if there's a lack of that, find a way quick to get your team the training they need, because they're just going against the grain. They are in pain if they are not able to acquire the skills they need within that time frame. So think about that. Think about pairing team members, or at least encouraging and advising. Remember, you're a coach, so you can coach them into these things. Where there's poor team dynamics, team building activities. When last did you do a team building activity? We talk about lack of communication, lack of engagement. You got to let these people know that work-life balance is not just about working and going home. What about the people you spend 8 solid hours of the day with, either online or in person? Doesn't it make sense to have some investment in relational equity? It does. And that's why you need to encourage and be the voice of reason to have these team building activities. All right, Scrum Master, development team, they should participate. Product owner should also be there. So why does this happen? Low morale. Maybe the team was browbeaten. Maybe the team is not as productive. It's okay. But we need to begin having these events, these team building activities where we can loosen up a bit. All right, so improve relationship and communication is what we're seeking to do. It should happen at any time where we see a breakdown. So during the sprint, after the sprint, and at a team building event or offsite is where we can seek to improve on these skills. It should be in a relaxed and informal setting, and how to improve the team morale and productivity. This is the reason actually why we do that, to improve the team morale. And lastly, examples of the tools that we would use for this: team building, good old team building, offsite, everything taken care of, not a care in the world. Okay? So over the past number of minutes, my friends, I've been sharing with you ideas, and I want to finalize all these ideas in a few slides. So no communication. Lack of communication results in misunderstandings, missed opportunities, conflicts, poor collaboration. It can create a culture of fear. It can cause resentment and mistrust. So it's really on you, Scrum Master, to say, now that I've seen this, I'm going to make sure that this is fixed and get it fixed, right? How do you do that? By bringing the team in, like I said, by doing the things I advised in the matrix. What about dealing with introverts? Now, this is a very touchy subject, but I want you to understand there's diversity and inclusion on every team. Some teams are very diverse. You got people there that sound like Donald Duck on steroids talking a mile a minute, and you've got others that are almost like Miss Debbie Downer, but they're not that. It seems like they are, but they're not. They're just naturally quiet. They're naturally unresponsive. They don't emote very much, and we need to understand that is diversity, and we need to give them that space. Give them time to prepare for stuff, because they typically like a lot of time, those folks. Or if they're very outspoken suddenly about something, then you know you found what they're passionate about. Encourage them to share their ideas and opinions in writing or one-on-one. Avoid putting them on the spot or forcing them to speak in front of the group. And lastly, provide a safe and supportive environment. Always let them feel at home. Don't let them feel like they need to aspire to this big old standard that's just not them. When it comes to encouraging the team to ask questions during the Scrum events, this is something you need to encourage. This is something you need to begin to initiate. So you need to explain the purpose and benefits of the events. Encourage active participation at all times, even if you're not a facilitator. Be a reminder that we should be participating, all of us, as much as we can to get the best output. Create a culture of curiosity and continuous learning. Reward and recognize those who ask thoughtful and relevant questions. So if someone asks a question, say, brilliant question, Phil. Team, what do you think about this? And when we say reward, we're not talking about money. We just mean that you help the people feel appreciated by giving them a great feedback message. And I'm not saying give them a pat on the back. You know, some of these folks might be older than the Scrum Master for all they know. But it's not about age. It's really about appreciation and saying, wow, thanks, that was a great question, you know, and so on. So be mindful of those. Encourage those. A team that is asking questions is on the right track. A team that is not, that's the beginning of the end. So you want them to feel free among themselves. Foster an atmosphere of openness and respect, where everyone's input is valued. And that is how you do it, my friends. That is how you do it. All right, let's move on. When it comes to the topic of various perspectives, this is something we should actually celebrate. Do you know that you should celebrate diverse perspectives? Because it only enriches the team. So you want to embrace diversity and inclusion. And when I say diversity and inclusion, let's zoom in here for a quick second. So when I say diversity and inclusion, I'm talking about diversity of ideas. I'm talking about diversity neurally, right? People are wired differently. So we have what we call neurodiversity, right? Encouraging people with different backgrounds, experiences, and perspectives to join the team. That's another way that you can do this. And promoting active listening and empathy, using brainstorming and other ideation techniques to generate a wide range of ideas. And lastly, incorporating feedback and insights from customers and stakeholders. And I encourage you, keep doing these things. You need constant reminders, which is why I showed up today, because I know that even the Scrum Master needs a coach. It's not just about the developers that need a coach in Scrum. Scrum Master needs a coach. Who's a Scrum Master's coach? I could be your coach. Why don't you sign up at pmanonymous.com and get some Scrum Master coaching? Let's go through whatever stumbling blocks, obstacles, impediments, blockers. Let's go through what you're facing and let's get you to dry land. Let's help you help your team. I hope you found this to be helpful, my friends. That's all for today. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, share with your friends. It helps the algorithm. Don't forget this channel is for all things project management, whether PMP related, project management, risk management, schedule management, and of course, Agile. Thank you very much. I'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.